My name is Jeanne Baumann. I was the development director for Twin Cities Habitat. It was my job to raise money for Habitat. It was also my job to raise awareness as well. There was a young woman who the year she finished college, she graduated from St. Olaf in 1991, and she came to me and said she wanted to participate in a bicycle ride across America. She started on the West Coast and she was biking to New Jersey, and she wanted to do it to raise money for Twin Cities Habitat. And I personally thought she was nuts. And that was really the first time I was aware that people did that kind of, bicyclists were more than just, people riding around on bicycles in the neighborhood. So she came back to me, or we chatted after that, we got to know each other after that, and she started volunteering in the office a little bit. And we got to talking about it, and between the two of us, we said, what about doing a ride locally? So in 1992, we broached the idea. It just seemed like a fun way to try it, so we decided to go for it. We didn't have any name, we didn't have any concept quite of what we would do, but we did figure that it was probably worth doing and something that hadn't been done too much before. We heard that the Jimmy Carter Work Project was going to be within 500 miles of us. So we decided to ride to the Jimmy Carter Work Project, and that was just, that was kind of the ultimate reason to get out there and do it. He was up, and he and Rosalind were going to be in Winnipeg building houses. So we were to the Twin Cities to Winnipeg, 500 miles. I think that we found the Carter Work Project within a close distance and said that would be our goal. Okay. And then we picked a couple of people to work on routes, Arnie being one of them, and they went and drove it. Arnie and Ed actually together drove up to Winnipeg and plotted it out, and they came back and said, we have to do it over, you can't do it in any less than 7 days. We relied a lot on the cyclists who were part of the committee to tell us what was doable and what wasn't. We put everybody into a formation and rode in together, and when you had the oldest rider on the ride, Ed, who was 78, I think, 70, he was in his 70s, and Victor, who was our youngest, he was 14 going on 15, and we had the two of them at the head of the line, and then streams of people behind that. And we actually got onto the streets of Winnipeg. We had a police escort that brought us in to the Jimmy Carter Work Project. It's a traffic stop, and it was really cool to be in one of the vehicles, because I was always just in a vehicle, but watching people along the way watching us come in and wondering what was going on. So the Jimmy Carter piece was pretty amazing. A number of us gathered on the stage, most of the committee were on a stage with Millard and Linda Fuller. And then Jimmy and Rosalind came in through the crowd, and it was just amazingly exciting. We did a big presentation check because we took 10% of everything we raised and we gave it to the Habitat International for the Jimmy Carter Work Project. So we had a big check for 10%, and we had kept how much we had raised for the ride secret until the last night, and that's when we told the riders, and that's when we made out the check. Well, there are a lot of memories, and they all kind of jumble together. I did 5 of the rides, the first 5 years, and they get a little jumbled sometimes. Being on the ride with Susan Baker was one of the most fun times ever. You couldn't see two people laugh together as much as we laugh. And they are extremely wonderful people. They are among some of the most special people I think I've ever met. I think a lot of the first ride, the excitement of the riders just to be doing something that had never been done before. The idea that they were going to see Jimmy Carter at the end was an inspiration for a lot of people, a motivation. It was just very exciting. And I know the very first year we raised enough money and we said to the cyclists, you in effect have, by what you've raised, built 2 houses. To think that we may have, maybe over the 20 years we've built 30, 40, 50 houses or more.
Yeah.
That's 30, 40, 50 families whose lives have been touched by people out on bicycles. I think that's pretty exciting. For me to sit back in this last year and realize this ride was at 20 years and I helped make it happen, that makes me feel pretty good. I think that everybody that's involved with it understands the impact of it and what it means to families and what it means to building houses. I think that's it. It's so energizing. What you're doing is so adrenaline pumping. I think unless you've been on it or you're participating in it, to understand what it does to your spirit is hard to express, but it really just revs you up. There's headaches, there's people who go off the road, there's flat tires, there's road rash, there's all kinds of things that get in the way. But the overall is so good that you just keep smiling about it. The first word that pops to mind without much, I don't know where it's coming from, but the word that popped to mind right away was joy. I think it gives joy and it brings joy.